Amidst the rolling hills of Kentucky, where the dense forests concealed ancient secrets and the night held its breath, I found myself drawn to a chilling tale. The locals spoke of a cryptid that prowled these lands, a creature known simply as the holler howler. It was a legend whispered among the Appalachian folk, a story that had been passed down through generations. Little did I know that my quest to uncover the truth would lead me into the heart of a horror that defied explanation. The holler howler was said to be a creature of the night, a being that roamed the secluded hollows and shadowy woods. Its appearance was shrouded in mystery, its legend fueled by fear and superstition. Some claimed it had the body of a man and the head of a wolf, while others spoke of a twisted, emaciated figure with gnarled limbs and eyes that glowed like coals in the dark. My curiosity drove me deeper into the Appalachian wilderness, armed with nothing more than a flashlight and a sense of trepidation. The night was thick with an eerie silence, broken only by the rustling of leaves and the distant hoot of an owl. The stars above seemed to twinkle with a knowing glint, as if they were privy to the secrets that lay hidden in the shadows. As I ventured further into the wilderness, a sense of unease settled over me. It was a feeling that crept up my spine, a sense that I was being watched by unseen eyes. The legends of the holler howler weighed heavy on my mind, and I couldn't help but wonder if there was any truth to the tales. And then, it happened. As I navigated a narrow trail that wound through the forest, I heard a sound that sent shivers down my spine, a low, mournful howl that seemed to echo through the trees. It was a sound that chilled me to the core, a cry that spoke of loneliness and despair. I froze in my tracks, my flashlight trembling in my hand. The howl came again, closer this time, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. It was a sound that defied explanation, a wail that seemed to come from a place beyond the realm of the living. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was not alone in the woods, that the holler howler was real and lurking nearby. Fear took hold as I aimed my flashlight into the darkness, searching for any sign of the cryptid. And then, I saw it, a pair of glowing eyes, like burning embers in the night. They peered at me from the shadows, filled with a malevolent intelligence that sent a chill down my spine. The holler howler emerged from the darkness, its form hunched and twisted. Its eyes, as I had feared, glowed like coals in the night, and its gnarled limbs moved with an unnatural grace. It was a creature that defied all reason, a being that seemed to exist on the fringes of reality. The holler howler's gaze was fixed on me, and I could feel its hunger, its thirst for something I couldn't comprehend. It moved closer, its howls growing louder and more mournful. I knew that I was in the presence of a creature that existed beyond the realm of the known. With a sudden burst of speed, the holler howler lunged at me, its twisted limbs outstretched. I barely had time to react, stumbling backward and crashing to the forest floor. Its fangs snapped shut just inches from my face, the stench of its breath filling my nostrils. Desperation seized me as I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding in my chest. The holler howler pursued me relentlessly, its howls echoing through the forest. I could feel its malevolent intent, its desire to claim me as its prey. Hours turned into an eternity as I fled through the dark woods, the holler howler never far behind. The forest seemed to stretch endlessly before me, a labyrinth of twisted trees and shadowy hollows. I knew that I could not outrun the cryptid forever, that it was only a matter of time before it caught up to me. As dawn approached, I stumbled upon an old, decrepit cabin hidden deep in the woods. It was a place of desolation, its windows shattered and its roof sagging under the weight of time. But it was a refuge, a place where I might find safety from the relentless pursuit of the holler howler. With trembling hands, I pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The cabin was a place frozen in time, its interior shrouded in darkness and decay. The air was thick with dust and the scent of mold, and the walls were adorned with faded photographs and cryptic symbols. I hid in the shadows, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I could hear the holler howler's howls growing closer, its presence a malevolent force that seemed to seep through the very walls of the cabin. It knew that I was inside, that I had sought refuge in this forsaken place. I knew that I could not hide forever, that the cryptid would find me eventually. With trembling hands, I searched for anything that might help me. And then, I found it, an old, weathered journal hidden beneath a pile of decaying papers. The journal was filled with handwritten notes, the ramblings of a previous occupant. It spoke of a ritual, a way to banish the holler howler from the forest. It required a sacrifice, a blood offering that would appease the creature and drive it away. I had no choice but to try. With the journal as my guide, I gathered the necessary materials, candles, salt, and a vial of my own blood. The cabin seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy as I prepared the ritual, the very air alive with the presence of the holler howler. As I chanted the incantations, the cabin shook, its timbers groaning in protest. Shadows danced on the walls, and the howls of the holler howler grew louder, more furious. It knew what I was attempting, and it was determined to stop me. With a final, desperate plea, I completed the ritual, binding the creature's spirit to the salt circle I had created. The cabin was filled with an otherworldly howl, a cacophony of rage and despair. I could feel the howler's presence fading, its power waning. And then, it was gone. I collapsed to the floor, my body racked with exhaustion. The cabin was silent once more, the malevolent energy dissipating. I had banished the howler, driven it back to the darkness from whence it had come. But I knew that it was not truly defeated, that it would linger in the woods, waiting for the opportunity to return. I had confronted a nightmare, a creature that defied all reason, and I had survived. But the memory of that night, of the dark woods and the howler, would forever haunt my dreams, a reminder that in the depths of the Appalachian wilderness, there are mysteries that defy explanation, and horrors that should never be unleashed. I was drawn to the quiet, isolated town nestled near the edge of the dense forest. It was a place that had always seemed peaceful, but appearances can be deceiving. My nightmares had led me here, nightmares that were no longer confined to the realm of sleep. In the dead of night, I wandered the streets, a heavy fog shrouding the town. The pale moonlight cast eerie shadows, and I could hear the faint rustling of leaves in the wind. It was as if the very air was thick with dread, waiting for something sinister to materialize. Then, it happened. From the depths of the forest, a grotesque figure emerged. It was tall, impossibly so, with wings that seemed to stretch endlessly into the night. Its eyes, two burning orbs of crimson, fixated on me, and terror gripped my heart. The Mothman had come to life. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest. This couldn't be real. It was just a legend, a creature of folklore. But there it stood, undeniable and horrifying. The Mothman's wings unfurled, and with a blood-curdling screech, it launched itself into the sky. I ran, my footsteps echoing through the empty streets, but the Mothman pursued me relentlessly. Its wings beat the air with an otherworldly force, and I could feel its malevolent presence closing in. Every time I glanced back, those crimson eyes pierced through the darkness, never wavering. I reached the town's abandoned church, a place where I had heard stories of strange rituals and dark ceremonies. Desperation led me to seek refuge within its decaying walls. As I entered, the air grew colder, and an oppressive feeling of dread settled over me. I hid in the shadows, hoping against hope that the Mothman would pass me by. But it was not so easily deterred. With a deafening crash, it smashed through the church's crumbling stained glass windows. Shards of colored glass rained down around me as the creature landed on the altar. Its body was a grotesque fusion of man and moth, with leathery skin stretched over bony limbs. Its claws scraped against the old, wooden pews as it moved closer, inch by agonizing inch. I was trapped, my fear paralyzing me. The Mothman's voice echoed through the church, a chilling cacophony that reverberated in my mind. It spoke in a language I couldn't comprehend, but its intentions were clear, it wanted me. As it drew closer, I could see the details of its monstrous form more clearly. Its face was a nightmarish fusion of insect and human, with jagged teeth that glistened with an otherworldly hunger. The stench of decay emanated from its body, filling the air with a putrid odor. I had no choice but to confront the horror before me. With trembling hands, I reached into my pocket and pulled out a small, silver amulet that had been passed down through generations of my family. It was said to have protective powers, though I had never truly believed it until now. I held the amulet aloft, and to my astonishment, it began to glow with a brilliant, silver light. The Mothman screeched in agony, its wings recoiling as if struck by an invisible force. It retreated, its crimson eyes filled with hatred and frustration. For a moment, I thought I had won, that the amulet's power had saved me. But the Mothman was not so easily defeated. With a final, piercing screech, it vanished into the darkness, leaving behind a lingering sense of dread. I knew then that the Mothman would never truly be gone. It was a creature born of nightmares, a terror that could not be banished so easily. As I left the church, I couldn't help but wonder if I had escaped with my life or merely postponed the inevitable. The nightmares continued, each night more vivid and horrifying than the last. The Mothman's crimson eyes haunted my dreams, a constant reminder that it was still out there, waiting. And I knew that one day, it would return, and there would be no escaping its terrible embrace. I had seen the Mothman, felt its malevolent presence, and I knew that I was forever marked by its terror. My only hope was that I could uncover the truth behind the legend, find a way to stop it before it was too late. But in the heart of that quiet, isolated town, the darkness was all-encompassing, and the Mothman's curse would never truly be lifted. I ventured deep into the remote cabin nestled within the snow-covered wilderness. The air was crisp, and the world was blanketed in white. The promise of solitude and a break from the demands of everyday life drew me here, but little did I know that I had entered a realm of terror from which there was no escape. The cabin itself was quaint and inviting, with a rustic charm that beckoned me to stay. The roaring fire in the hearth crackled and flickered, casting dancing shadows on the wooden walls. The soft glow of the lanterns added to the cozy atmosphere, and for a moment, I felt at peace. However, as the sun dipped below the horizon and darkness descended upon the forest, an unsettling feeling crept over me. The silence was oppressive, broken only by the occasional rustling of the trees in the icy wind. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. That night, as I lay in my bed, I heard a faint, eerie whispering outside the cabin. The voice was guttural, incomprehensible, and it sent shivers down my spine. I dismissed it as the wind playing tricks on my imagination, but deep down, I knew it was something more sinister. Sleep was elusive that night, and when I finally dozed off, I was plagued by nightmarish visions. I dreamt of a creature, a monstrous being with long, jagged teeth that gleamed in the moonlight. Its eyes were pools of endless darkness, devoid of any humanity. It watched me from the shadows, its presence malevolent and suffocating. I awoke with a start, drenched in cold sweat. The cabin was silent, and the fire had dwindled to embers. The lanterns had gone out, plunging the room into darkness. Panic gripped me as I fumbled for a match to relight them. As the room slowly brightened, I noticed something chilling. Muddy footprints led from the door to my bedside. They were not my own, and there was no rational explanation for how they had appeared. The cabin's solitude had become a trap, and I was not alone. Fear gnawed at me as I followed the footprints, which led to the cabin's back door. With trembling hands, I opened it and stepped outside. The cold air bit into my skin, and the forest stretched out before me, an expanse of darkness and unknown horrors. I followed the footprints deeper into the woods, guided by an instinct I could not explain. The whispering voices from my dream returned, louder and more sinister. They seemed to emanate from the very trees themselves, as if the forest was alive with malevolence. And then, I saw it. A figure stood in the clearing ahead, bathed in the soft glow of the moon. It was the same creature from my nightmares, a twisted, nightmarish being with long, jagged teeth and eyes that seemed to absorb all light. It grinned, a grotesque rictus that sent chills down my spine. In that moment, I realized the truth. I had entered its domain, and it had been waiting for me. The creature moved closer, its movements unnatural and sinuous. It was a cryptid, a monster of the woods, and I was its prey. I turned and fled, my heart pounding in my chest. The forest seemed to close in around me, the trees twisting and contorting as if to block my path. The whispering voices grew louder, mocking and taunting me. I stumbled and fell, my breath coming in ragged gasps. And then, it was upon me. The creature's long teeth sank into my flesh, its grip like a vice. Agonizing pain coursed through my body as it tore into my very being. I screamed, but the forest swallowed my cries, and the whispering voices rejoiced in my torment. I fought with every ounce of strength I had left, but it was futile. The creature's eyes bore into mine, and in that moment, I saw the abyss of its soulless existence. It was a predator, a creature of pure malevolence, and I was nothing more than prey. As darkness closed in around me, I knew that I would never escape. I had ventured too deep into the wilderness, and now, I was a part of it, a victim of the cryptid with long teeth and horror-filled eyes. My fate was sealed, and the forest would keep its terrible secret, hidden from the world forever. As darkness closed in around me, I knew that I would never escape. I had ventured too deep into the wilderness, and now, I was a part of it, a victim of the cryptid with long teeth and horror-filled eyes. My fate was sealed, and the forest would keep its terrible secret, hidden from the world forever. I had always been drawn to the tranquility of the lakeside, the calm waters reflecting the serene beauty of nature. It was here, at this secluded campground, that my friends and I sought a weekend escape from the chaos of city life. Little did we know that the lake held a secret that would unleash a nightmare beyond our darkest imaginations. The days were filled with laughter and the joy of being in each other's company. We set up camp near the water's edge, the clear blue lake stretching out before us like a liquid mirror. Fishing, swimming, and storytelling by the campfire filled our time as we basked in the idyllic setting. But as the sun dipped below the horizon, and the sky painted itself in shades of crimson and indigo, a sense of unease crept over us. The once inviting waters now seemed foreboding, and the forest around us appeared to come alive with unseen eyes. Our first inkling that something was amiss came when our fishing lines went taut with a sudden and violent force. Whatever lurked beneath the surface of the lake was massive and powerful. We struggled to reel in our lines, our muscles straining against the resistance. Then, it emerged. A creature unlike anything we had ever seen breached the surface. Its slimy, scaled body glistened in the moonlight, and its eyes, cold and soulless, fixated on us with an insatiable hunger. Rows of sharp, needle-like teeth filled its gaping maw. Panic seized us as we realized the truth: we were not alone in these waters. The lake monster, a cryptid of legend, had come to life before our very eyes. It was a grotesque abomination, a relic of prehistoric times, and it hungered for our flesh. With a horrifying roar, the creature lunged at us. We scattered in terror, but it was too fast, too relentless. It seized one of my friends in its monstrous jaws, and with a sickening crunch, he was pulled beneath the surface, his screams silenced by the murky depths. We watched in horror as the lake monster thrashed in the water, its enormous form twisting and contorting. It had tasted blood, and it wanted more. With a shudder, it vanished beneath the waves, leaving behind only ripples on the once calm surface of the lake. We were paralyzed with fear, unable to comprehend the nightmare that had just unfolded. The lake, once a source of joy and tranquility, had become a watery abyss of death. And we were trapped on its shores, helpless and terrified. As the night wore on, we huddled together by the dying embers of the campfire, our eyes scanning the dark waters for any sign of the creature's return. The air was heavy with dread, and the once familiar sounds of the forest now seemed alien and menacing. In the distance, we heard the mournful cries of other campers who had ventured too close to the lake. Their voices were filled with terror and desperation, and we knew that the lake monster had claimed more victims. With each passing moment, the sense of isolation deepened. We were cut off from the outside world, our phones useless in this remote wilderness. We were alone, trapped in a nightmare of our own making. As dawn broke, we made a desperate decision. We had to find a way to escape this living nightmare, to warn others of the lake monster's existence. With makeshift rafts and the dwindling hope of survival, we ventured out onto the lake, armed with harpoons and a determination to confront the cryptid. The lake was calm, an eerie stillness that belied the horror lurking beneath its surface. We moved in a tight formation, our eyes scanning the water for any sign of movement. Hours passed, and the tension grew unbearable. And then, it came for us. With a thunderous splash, the lake monster erupted from the depths, its scaled body gleaming in the morning light. It was larger and more horrifying than we could have ever imagined, a true leviathan of the deep. The battle that followed was a desperate struggle for survival. The creature's enormous tail lashed out, capsizing one of our rafts, sending my friend into the frigid water. He screamed as the lake monster closed in, its teeth gnashing. We fought back with harpoons and sheer determination, our fear giving way to a primal instinct to survive. For hours, we battled the lake monster, our strength waning with each passing moment. The creature was relentless, its eyes filled with a malevolence that chilled us to the core. It was a true monster of the deep, a force of nature that could not be defeated. As the sun dipped below the horizon once more, we realized the futility of our efforts. We were no match for the lake monster's power and ferocity. With heavy hearts, we retreated to the safety of the shore, our rafts in tatters and our numbers diminished. The lake monster, its hunger sated for the moment, returned to the depths, vanishing beneath the dark waters. We were left battered and broken, survivors of a nightmare that defied all reason. We made our way back to civilization, our bodies scarred by the battle with the cryptid, our minds haunted by the memory of those we had lost. We knew that the lake monster was still out there, lurking in the depths, waiting for its next opportunity to strike. The lake, once a place of serenity and beauty, had become a watery grave, a realm of unspeakable horror. And we, the survivors, were left with the chilling truth, that in the depths of the unknown, in the heart of nature's darkness, there are monsters that defy all explanation, creatures that lurk in the shadows, waiting to claim their next victims. It was a dark and moonless night when I found myself deep within the foreboding pine barrens of New Jersey. My curiosity had led me to this desolate place, a realm of twisted trees and whispering winds. Little did I know that I was about to confront a terror that defied all reason and would forever haunt my nightmares. The Pine Barrens were a place of legends, home to tales of the Jersey Devil, a creature born of nightmares and superstitions. Many believed it to be a mere myth, a folktale to scare children, but I was determined to uncover the truth. My journey had brought me to the heart of the Pine Barrens, where the air was thick with the stench of decay, and the silence was oppressive. It was a place untouched by time, a wilderness that seemed to reject all intruders. As I ventured deeper into the forest, I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. Shadows moved at the corner of my vision, and the rustling of leaves in the wind sounded like mocking laughter. The Pine Barrens had a malevolent presence that clung to the very air. It was then that I heard it, a bone-chilling screech that echoed through the trees. The sound was otherworldly, a blend of agony and rage that sent a shiver down my spine. I knew that I was not alone, and the legend of the Jersey Devil had come to life. The creature emerged from the darkness, a grotesque fusion of man and beast. It stood tall and hunched, its leathery wings unfurling with a sickening rustle. Its eyes, red as blood and filled with a savage intelligence, fixed on me with a malevolent glare. Fear gripped me as I realized the truth. The Jersey Devil was real, and I stood face to face with a creature that defied all logic. It was a monster, a nightmare given form, and it hungered for my soul. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest, but the Jersey Devil pursued me relentlessly. Its wings beat the air with an otherworldly force, and its taloned hands reached out to snatch me. I could feel its hot breath on my neck, its fetid odor filling my nostrils. Desperation took hold as I plunged deeper into the pine barrens, the trees closing in around me like gnarled hands. The creature's screeches echoed through the night, a relentless pursuit that seemed to come from all directions. I was trapped in a nightmare, a world where the line between reality and myth had blurred beyond recognition. Hours passed, and I could feel myself weakening, my strength waning under the relentless pursuit. The pine barrens seemed to stretch on endlessly, a labyrinth of darkness and despair. I knew that I could not outrun the Jersey Devil forever. As dawn approached, I stumbled upon an abandoned church, its ancient stones weathered by time and neglect. It was a place of refuge, or so I hoped. With a final burst of energy, I pushed open the heavy wooden doors and stepped inside. The church was a place of eerie silence, a sanctuary that had long been abandoned by the living. The air was thick with dust and the scent of decay, and the pews stood empty, a testament to a congregation lost to time. I hid in the shadows, my breath coming in ragged gasps. I could hear the Jersey Devil's screeches growing closer, its wing beats echoing through the empty church. It was toying with me, relishing the hunt. I knew that I couldn't hide forever, that the creature would find me eventually. With trembling hands, I searched for something, anything that could help me. It was then that I found it, an old, weathered book hidden beneath a pile of decaying hymnals. The book was filled with faded pages of handwritten notes, a record of the church's dark history. It spoke of rituals and ceremonies, of a pact made with a malevolent force that dwelled within the pine barrens. The creature, the Jersey Devil, was a guardian of this unholy covenant, a sentinel of the damned. Desperation drove me to read further, to uncover the secrets that had been hidden for centuries. The book spoke of a way to banish the Jersey Devil, a ritual that required a sacrifice of blood and a binding of the creature's spirit. I had no choice but to try. With the book as my guide, I gathered the necessary materials, candles, salt, and a vial of my own blood. The church seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy as I prepared the ritual, the very air alive with the presence of the Jersey Devil. As I chanted the incantations, the church shook, its ancient timbers groaning in protest. Shadows danced on the walls, and the screeches of the Jersey Devil grew louder, more furious. It knew what I was attempting, and it was determined to stop me. With a final, desperate plea, I completed the ritual, binding the creature's spirit to the salt circle I had created. The church was filled with an otherworldly howl, a cacophony of rage and despair. I could feel the Jersey Devil's presence fading, its power waning. And then, it was gone. I collapsed to the floor, my body racked with exhaustion. The church was silent once more, the malevolent energy dissipating. I had banished the Jersey Devil, driven it back to the darkness from whence it had come. But I knew that it was not truly defeated, that it would linger in the pine barrens, waiting for the opportunity to return. I had confronted a nightmare, a creature that defied all reason, and I had survived. But the memory of that night, of the pine barrens and the Jersey Devil, would forever haunt my dreams, a reminder that in the darkest corners of the world, the line between reality and myth is a thin and fragile one. The allure of the remote Mexican village nestled deep within the sweltering embrace of the desert had always beckoned to me. It was a place untouched by time, where ancient traditions and legends still held sway. Little did I know that my fascination with this isolated community would plunge me into a living nightmare, one that defied reason and sanity. The village had a timeless quality, its adobe buildings weathered by centuries of harsh sun and fierce storms. The people who lived here were a close-knit community, bound by traditions and superstitions passed down through generations. Among these tales, one stood out, a story whispered in hushed tones after the sun dipped below the horizon, the legend of the chupacabra. The chupacabra, they said, was a creature of the night, a bloodthirsty monster that preyed upon the livestock of the village. Its name meant goat sucker, and its legend had struck fear into the hearts of the villagers for generations. My curiosity led me to investigate the truth behind the chupacabra. I sought out the village elders, hoping to glean information about this cryptid. Their eyes bore the weight of years, and they spoke of the chupacabra with a mixture of fear and reverence. They described it as a creature of darkness, with scaly skin and fangs that dripped with the blood of its victims. Its eyes, they said, burned like twin flames in the night, and its hunger for flesh was insatiable. They showed me photographs of mutilated livestock, their bodies drained of blood, and told tales of farmers who had encountered the chupacabra and never returned. As the days passed, I became obsessed with uncovering the truth. I camped on the outskirts of the village, hoping to catch a glimpse of the elusive creature. Each night, I would listen to the eerie sounds of the desert, the distant howls of coyotes, and the mournful cries of the wind. And then, it happened. One sweltering night, as I lay in my tent, I heard a sound that sent shivers down my spine, a low, guttural growl that seemed to emanate from the very earth itself. I grabbed my flashlight and cautiously unzipped the tent, my heart pounding in my chest. In the pale glow of the moonlight, I saw it, the chupacabra. It stood hunched over, its scaly skin shimmering in the darkness. Its eyes were indeed twin flames, burning with an otherworldly hunger. Its fangs glistened with fresh blood. Fear paralyzed me as I watched the creature. It was not the grotesque monster I had imagined, but something far more terrifying, a living nightmare that defied all reason. It moved with a grace and fluidity that belied its monstrous appearance, and I knew that I was in the presence of something unnatural. The chupacabra's attention was fixed on the village, its feral gaze filled with anticipation. It was preparing to strike, to feed on the livestock that grazed in the moonlit pastures. It was a creature of pure instinct, a predator that existed only to satiate its hunger. I knew that I had to act, to warn the villagers of the impending danger. With trembling hands, I fumbled for my phone and called the village elder, my voice barely above a whisper. I urged him to gather the villagers and protect their livestock from the chupacabra's wrath. As I spoke, the creature turned its head, its fiery eyes locking onto mine. It knew that I had seen it, that I had exposed its presence to the world. Its growls grew louder, more menacing, and I could feel its malevolent intent. I hung up the phone and fled into the desert, my heart pounding in my chest. The chupacabra pursued me, its growls echoing through the night. I ran with all my strength, my mind filled with terror and regret for ever seeking out the truth. Hours passed, and I eventually lost the creature in the maze-like canyons of the desert. But I knew that it would not be deterred, that it would continue its relentless hunt for blood. I returned to the village, exhausted and shaken, only to find chaos and panic. The villagers had heeded my warning, but the chupacabra had struck before they could protect their livestock. The pastures were littered with the mutilated bodies of goats and chickens, their blood staining the desert sand. The villagers gathered around me, their eyes filled with fear and anger. They blamed me for bringing the chupacabra to their doorstep, for exposing them to its relentless hunger. I tried to explain that I had only sought the truth, but they were deaf to my pleas. As night fell once more, the chupacabra's growls echoed through the village, a chilling reminder of the nightmare that had descended upon us. The villagers huddled together, clutching makeshift weapons, their faces pale with dread. I knew that I had to confront the chupacabra, to put an end to the terror that I had unwittingly unleashed. Armed with a flashlight and a sense of grim determination, I ventured out into the desert once more, my heart heavy with guilt and fear. I searched for hours, the desert landscape unforgiving and unyielding. And then, I found it, the chupacabra, lurking in the shadows, its eyes burning with hunger. It was a sight that would haunt my nightmares for the rest of my life. The creature lunged at me, its fangs bared, but I was ready. I shone my flashlight directly into its eyes, blinding it momentarily. It screeched in agony, its unearthly cries reverberating through the desert. With a surge of adrenaline, I struck the creature with a heavy branch, driving it back. It hissed and growled, its bloodshot eyes filled with hatred. I knew that I had to act quickly, to banish this nightmare once and for all. Summoning all my courage, I recited the incantations I had learned from the village elder. The chupacabra writhed in agony, its scaly skin smoldering. It screeched one final time before vanishing into thin air, leaving behind only the acrid stench of burnt flesh. I stood alone in the desert, the echoes of the chupacabra's cries fading into the night. The nightmare was over, but the guilt and fear would linger forever. I had confronted a legend, a creature of pure terror, and survived to tell the tale. As I made my way back to the village, I knew that I could never truly make amends for the chaos and destruction I had unwittingly brought upon the villagers. The chupacabra was gone, banished by my actions, but the scars it had left behind would never heal. The village had paid a steep price for my curiosity, and I could only hope that they would find a way to rebuild and move on from the nightmare that had haunted them. As for me, I would forever be haunted by the memory of the chupacabra, a creature of darkness and legend that had become all too real. In the remote mountains of Appalachia, where the dense forests cast long shadows and secrets lurked in every corner, I found myself drawn to a chilling tale. It was a story whispered by the locals, a story that spoke of a cryptid unlike any other, a creature that had terrorized the region for generations. Little did I know that my journey to uncover the truth would lead me into the heart of a nightmare from which there was no escape. The locals called it the Shrouded One. They spoke of a creature that dwelled deep within the heart of the forest, a being so elusive that few had ever glimpsed it and lived to tell the tale. Its existence was shrouded in mystery, its legend a source of fear and fascination. The Shrouded One was said to be a creature of darkness, a shadowy figure that moved silently through the trees. Its eyes, they claimed, glowed with an otherworldly light, and its presence was accompanied by an eerie, mournful howl that chilled the blood. It was a being that defied explanation, a cryptid that seemed to exist on the fringes of reality. My obsession with the Shrouded One led me deep into the Appalachian wilderness. Armed with a camera and a sense of determination, I set out to capture evidence of the creature's existence. The forest was dense and foreboding, its ancient trees casting long, eerie shadows that seemed to reach out for me. As the days turned into nights, I ventured further into the wilderness, guided only by the tales of the locals and my own unshakable resolve. Each night, I would set up camp, my heart pounding in anticipation of what I might encounter. And then, it happened. One moonless night, as I huddled by my campfire, I heard it, the mournful howl that had been described in the stories. It echoed through the trees, a sound so haunting that it sent a shiver down my spine. I fumbled for my camera, desperate to capture proof of the Shrouded One's existence. And then, I saw it. Emerging from the darkness, a figure moved silently through the trees. It was a shadowy presence, its form shifting and indistinct. Its eyes glowed with an otherworldly light, and its howls filled the night air. Fear seized me as I aimed my camera at the creature, snapping photo after photo in a frantic attempt to document its existence. The Shrouded One seemed to sense my presence, its gaze fixing on me with a malevolent intent. It moved closer, its form becoming more distinct, and I could see the twisted, unnatural features of its face. I knew that I was in the presence of something beyond comprehension, something that defied all reason. The Shrouded One was a being of pure terror, a cryptid that had haunted the mountains for centuries. With a sudden burst of speed, the creature lunged at me, its eyes burning with hunger. I stumbled backward, my heart racing, and managed to evade its grasp. The Shrouded One howled in frustration, its mournful cries echoing through the forest. Desperation took hold as I fled deeper into the wilderness, the creature in relentless pursuit. It moved with an uncanny swiftness, its shadowy form always just out of reach. I could hear its howls growing closer, its presence an ever-present terror that seemed to envelop me. Hours turned into days, and I became increasingly aware that the Shrouded One would not relent. It was a predator, a creature driven by an insatiable hunger, and I was its prey. I knew that I had to find a way to escape, to elude the cryptid that pursued me relentlessly. As I stumbled through the dense forest, I came upon an ancient, dilapidated cabin. It was a refuge, a place where I might find safety from the relentless pursuit of the Shrouded One. With a sense of desperate hope, I pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The cabin was a place of darkness and decay, its walls adorned with faded photographs and cryptic symbols. It was clear that the cabin had not been occupied in years, and a sense of unease settled over me. But it was a sanctuary, a place where I could take refuge from the nightmare outside. As I huddled inside the cabin, I could hear the mournful howls of the Shrouded One in the distance. It circled the cabin, its presence a malevolent force that seemed to seep through the very walls. I knew that I was not safe, that the cryptid was determined to claim me as its own. In my desperation, I searched the cabin for anything that might help me. Among the faded photographs and dusty relics, I found a journal. It was filled with the ramblings of a previous occupant, a person who had also encountered the Shrouded One. The journal spoke of a ritual, a way to banish the cryptid from the forest. It required a sacrifice, a blood offering that would appease the creature and drive it away. It was a desperate gamble, a last-ditch effort to escape the relentless pursuit of the Shrouded One. With trembling hands, I prepared for the ritual, gathering the necessary materials, candles, salt, and a vial of my own blood. I knew that the cryptid would not be appeased easily, that it would resist with all its malevolent power. As I chanted the incantations, the cabin shook, its timbers groaning in protest. Shadows danced on the walls, and the mournful howls of the Shrouded One grew louder, more furious. It knew what I was attempting, and it was determined to stop me. With a final, desperate plea, I completed the ritual, a sense of dread and resignation washing over me. The cabin was filled with an otherworldly howl, a cacophony of rage and despair. I could feel the Shrouded One's presence fading, its power waning, and then, it was gone. I stood alone in the cabin, the echoes of the shrouded one's cries fading into the night. The nightmare was over, but the memory of the cryptid would forever haunt my dreams. I had confronted a legend, a creature that defied all reason, and I had survived. But the shrouded one's presence would linger in the mountains, a reminder that in the darkest corners of the world, there are monsters that defy all explanation, creatures that lurk in the shadows, waiting to claim their next victims. The wind howled through the desolate Wyoming plains as I found myself driving down a lonely stretch of highway. I had always been drawn to the mysteries of the American West, but little did I know that my quest for adventure would lead me to a cryptid horror beyond my wildest imagination. I had heard rumors of a creature that roamed these remote lands, a cryptid known only as the Desert Dweller. The stories were as varied as the landscape itself, a beast with matted fur, glowing eyes, and a sinister hunger for anything that crossed its path. Some claimed it was a monstrous hybrid of wolf and coyote, while others believed it to be a vengeful spirit of the desert. As night descended upon the barren landscape, I decided to make camp by the side of the road. The desert was an unforgiving place, and I knew the importance of being prepared. I set up my tent and kindled a small campfire, the flames dancing in the cool night air. As I settled in for the night, the eerie silence of the desert enveloped me. The stars above were like diamonds in the sky, and the distant howls of coyotes added to the desolation of the landscape. I couldn't help but feel a sense of unease, as if I were being watched by unseen eyes. It was then that I heard it, a low, guttural growl that seemed to emanate from the very earth itself. My heart leapt into my throat as I scanned the darkness, searching for the source of the sound. But there was nothing to be seen, only the vast expanse of the desert stretching out before me. I dismissed the sound as a trick of my imagination, attributing it to the desert's eerie ambience. But as the minutes ticked by, the growls grew louder, more menacing. They seemed to surround me, coming from all directions at once. Fear gripped me as I realized that I was not alone in the desert. I fumbled for my flashlight and shone it into the darkness, revealing a pair of glowing eyes in the distance. They were like twin orbs of malevolent light, fixed on me with an unrelenting intensity. I knew that I had encountered the Desert Dweller, the cryptid of legend. It moved closer, its growls growing louder, and I could see its form taking shape in the dim light. It was a monstrous creature, its fur matted and filthy, its eyes burning with hunger. With a sudden burst of speed, the Desert Dweller lunged at me, its fangs bared. I barely had time to react, scrambling out of the way just in time to avoid its snapping jaws. It landed with a thud, its claws tearing into the desert sand. Panic seized me as I realized the true horror of the situation. I was trapped in the desert with a ravenous cryptid, a creature that wanted nothing more than to tear me apart. I knew that I had to find a way to escape, to evade the Desert Dweller and make it out of this nightmare alive. I retreated into my tent, my heart pounding in my chest. The Desert Dweller prowled just outside, its growls and snarls filling the night air. It was relentless, its hunger driving it to pursue me with an unrelenting determination. Hours passed, and I knew that I couldn't stay hidden in my tent forever. I needed a plan, a way to outsmart the cryptid and make my escape. With trembling hands, I searched through my backpack, looking for anything that might help me. And then, I found it, a can of pepper spray that I had brought for self-defense. It was a slim hope, but it was all I had. I knew that the Desert Dweller had a keen sense of smell, and if I could incapacitate it with the pepper spray, I might have a chance to get away. I cautiously unzipped the tent and stepped outside, the pepper spray clutched tightly in my hand. The Desert Dweller was still there, its eyes fixed on me with a hunger that sent a chill down my spine. It moved closer, its growls growing more menacing. With a deep breath, I aimed the pepper spray at the creature and released a stream of the stinging liquid. The Desert Dweller howled in pain, its eyes burning with agony. It thrashed and writhed, its fur matted with the noxious substance. Seizing the opportunity, I turned and ran, my heart pounding in my chest. The Desert Dweller pursued me, its howls of rage echoing through the desert. I knew that I had to put as much distance between us as possible, that my only chance of survival was to make it to the highway and find help. I ran for what felt like an eternity, the desert stretching out endlessly before me. The highway was a distant speck on the horizon, and the Desert Dweller was closing in fast. I could hear its ragged breath, its footsteps drawing nearer with each passing moment. With a burst of adrenaline-fueled strength, I reached the highway and flagged down a passing car. The driver stopped, and I tumbled into the safety of the vehicle, gasping for breath. I tried to explain what had happened, but my words came out in a jumbled, panicked rush. The driver, a kind-hearted soul, agreed to take me to the nearest town, where I could find help and safety. As we sped away from the desert, I looked back one last time, half expecting to see the glowing eyes of the Desert Dweller in pursuit. But the creature was gone, lost in the vast expanse of the desert once more. I had survived, but the memory of that night would forever haunt my nightmares. I had encountered a cryptid, a creature of pure horror, and lived to tell the tale. And in the desolate wilderness of the American West, I had learned that some mysteries are better left unsolved, and some legends are best left undisturbed. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the dense forest. I found myself deep within the heart of the Louisiana bayou, guided only by the faint light of my flashlight. The murky waters and twisted trees seemed to close in around me, and the distant sounds of nocturnal creatures added to the eerie atmosphere. I had heard whispers of a creature that haunted these swamps, a cryptid known to the locals as the Bayou Beast. Its legend was a tapestry woven from the threads of fear and superstition, a tale that sent shivers down the spines of those who dared to speak its name. The Bayou Beast was said to be a monstrous entity, a creature that prowled the swamps under the cover of darkness. Its appearance was described in hushed tones, a grotesque amalgamation of reptilian scales, webbed appendages, and a maw of dagger-like teeth. Its eyes, they said, were like twin orbs of malevolence that glowed with an otherworldly light. My curiosity had led me here, to the heart of the bayou, armed with nothing more than a flashlight and a sense of trepidation. The forest was alive with the cacophony of nocturnal creatures, their calls and croaks filling the night air. I moved deeper into the swamp, my footsteps sinking into the muck with each cautious step. The darkness seemed to stretch endlessly before me, broken only by the beam of my flashlight. The trees leaned in, their twisted branches forming grotesque silhouettes against the night sky. It was easy to believe that I was alone in this desolate place, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. And then, it happened. A rustling in the underbrush, a sound like scales sliding against one another. My heart quickened as I swung the flashlight in the direction of the noise. There, emerging from the swampy waters, was the Bayou Beast. It was a sight that defied reason, a hulking creature with reptilian scales that shimmered in the feeble light. Its eyes, as described in the legends, glowed with a sinister luminance. The Bayou Beast's elongated snout opened to reveal rows of serrated teeth, glistening with a viscous fluid. Fear gripped me as the creature fixed its malevolent gaze upon me. Its webbed appendages twitched with anticipation, and it emitted a low, guttural growl that sent a chill down my spine. I knew that I was in the presence of something that defied all explanation, a true cryptid of the bayou. With a sudden burst of speed, the Bayou Beast lunged toward me, its gaping maw inches from my face. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest, narrowly avoiding its snapping jaws. The creature's sheer size and power were overwhelming, and I knew that I was outmatched. Desperation seized me as I turned and fled through the dense undergrowth, the Bayou Beast hot on my trail. Its webbed feet churned through the muck with a sickening squelch, and its howls reverberated through the swamp. It was a relentless pursuit, a nightmare come to life. Hours turned into an eternity as I raced through the tangled wilderness, the Bayou Beast never more than a breath away. The swamp seemed to stretch endlessly, its waters dark and foreboding. I knew that I could not outrun the cryptid forever, that it was only a matter of time before it closed in for the kill. As dawn approached, I stumbled upon an abandoned shack hidden deep within the bayou. It was a place of decay, its walls adorned with faded photographs and cryptic symbols. But it was a sanctuary, a place where I might find safety from the relentless pursuit of the Bayou Beast. With trembling hands, I pushed open the creaking door and stepped inside. The air was thick with the scent of mildew, and the interior was shrouded in darkness. I hid in the shadows, my breath coming in ragged gasps, listening for any sign of the approaching cryptid. Outside, I could hear the Bayou Beast's howls growing closer, its presence a malevolent force that seemed to seep through the very walls of the shack. It knew that I was inside, that I had sought refuge in this forsaken place. I knew that I could not hide forever, that the cryptid would find me eventually. With trembling hands, I searched for anything that might help me. And then, I found it, an old, weathered journal hidden beneath a pile of rotting papers. The journal was filled with handwritten notes, the ramblings of a previous occupant who had also encountered the Bayou Beast. It spoke of a ritual, a way to appease the cryptid and drive it away. It required a sacrifice, a blood offering that would quench the creature's thirst for vengeance. With a sense of desperation, I prepared for the ritual, gathering the necessary materials, candles, salt, and a vial of my own blood. The shack seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy as I chanted the incantations, the very air alive with the presence of the Bayou Beast. As I completed the ritual, the shack shook violently, its timbers groaning in protest. Shadows danced on the walls, and the howls of the Bayou Beast grew louder, more furious. It knew what I was attempting, and it was determined to stop me. But I pressed on, my voice shaking but resolute. With a final, desperate plea, I completed the ritual, and the shack was filled with an otherworldly howl, a cacophony of rage and despair. I could feel the bayou beast's presence fading, its power waning. And then, it was gone. I collapsed to the floor, my body racked with exhaustion. The shack was silent once more, the malevolent energy dissipating. I had banished the bayou beast, driven it back into the depths of the swamp, but I knew that it was not truly defeated, that it would linger in the bayou, waiting for the opportunity to return. I had confronted a nightmare, a cryptid that defied all reason, and I had survived. But the memory of that night, of the dark bayou and the bayou beast, would forever haunt my dreams, a reminder that in the hidden depths of the world, there are horrors that defy explanation, creatures that should never be awakened. The air was heavy with the scent of salt and seaweed as I stood on the desolate shores of a remote fishing village in Nova Scotia. The towering cliffs loomed above, casting long shadows that seemed to reach out towards the turbulent ocean. It was a place untouched by time, a place where the villagers whispered of a cryptid that lurked in the depths, a creature they called the cliffside crawler. The legends of the cliffside crawler were as ancient as the rocks themselves, passed down through generations of fishermen. They spoke of a monstrous entity that emerged from the dark abyss, its body a grotesque fusion of sea and stone. It was said to have the head of a monstrous fish, its eyes like two abyssal voids that drew you into madness. My curiosity had brought me to this remote village, armed with nothing but a flashlight and a sense of foreboding. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie silver light on the rugged cliffs and the churning waves below. The village lay abandoned, its empty houses and deserted streets a testament to the fear that gripped its inhabitants. I ventured further down the shore, the sound of crashing waves echoing in my ears. The cliffs rose like titans, their jagged surfaces carved by centuries of wind and sea. It was easy to believe that I was alone in this desolate place, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. And then, it happened. A low, guttural growl rumbled through the night, a sound that sent a shiver down my spine. I swung my flashlight towards the source of the noise and froze in terror. Emerging from the shadows of the cliffside was the cliffside crawler. It defied all reason, a nightmarish fusion of sea and stone, its body covered in barnacles and seaweed. Its head was a grotesque mockery of a fish, its eyes twin voids that seemed to devour the light around them. The cliffside crawler's limbs were gnarled and twisted, ending in razor-sharp claws. Fear gripped me as the creature fixed its soulless gaze upon me. It emitted another growl, a sound that reverberated in my chest, and I could feel its malevolence, its ancient hunger. I knew that I was in the presence of something that defied explanation, a true cryptid of the sea. With a sudden burst of speed, the cliffside crawler lunged toward me, its clawed limbs outstretched. I stumbled backward, my heart pounding in my chest, narrowly avoiding its snapping jaws. The creature's sheer size and power were overwhelming, and I knew that I was outmatched. Desperation seized me as I turned and fled along the rocky shore, the cliffside crawler hot on my trail. Its claws scraped against the stone, sending sparks of agony through my mind. It was a relentless pursuit, a nightmare that had come to life. Hours turned into an eternity as I raced along the treacherous cliffs, the cliffside crawler never more than a breath away. The moon hung low in the sky, casting its pale light on the churning waves below. I knew that I could not outrun the cryptid forever, that it was only a matter of time before it closed in for the kill. As dawn approached, I stumbled upon a hidden cave carved into the cliffs, a refuge from the relentless pursuit of the cliffside crawler. With trembling hands, I entered the cave and took shelter in its shadowy depths. The air was damp and heavy with the scent of brine, and the cave seemed to reverberate with the echoes of ancient terrors. Outside, I could hear the cliffside crawler's growls growing closer, its presence a malevolent force that seemed to seep through the very stone of the cliffs. It knew that I was inside, that I had sought refuge in this forsaken place. I knew that I could not hide forever, that the cryptid would find me eventually. With trembling hands, I searched for anything that might help me. And then, I found it, an old, weathered tome hidden beneath a pile of seaweed. The tome was filled with handwritten notes, the ramblings of a previous villager who had also encountered the cliffside crawler. It spoke of a ritual, a way to appease the cryptid and drive it away. It required a sacrifice, a blood offering that would quench the creature's ancient thirst. With a sense of desperation, I prepared for the ritual, gathering the necessary materials, candles, salt, and a vial of my own blood. The cave seemed to pulse with a malevolent energy as I chanted the incantations, the very stone alive with the presence of the cliffside crawler. As I completed the ritual, the cave shook violently, its walls groaning in protest. Shadows danced on the stone, and the growls of the cliffside crawler grew louder, more furious. It knew what I was attempting, and it was determined to stop me. But I pressed on, my voice shaking but resolute. With a final, desperate plea, I completed the ritual, and the cave was filled with an otherworldly roar, a cacophony of rage and despair. I could feel the cliffside crawler's presence fading, its power waning. And then, it was gone. I collapsed to the cave floor, my body racked with exhaustion. The cave was silent once more, the malevolent energy dissipating. I had banished the cliffside crawler, driven it back into the depths of the sea. But I knew that it was not truly defeated, that it would linger in the ocean, waiting for the opportunity to return. I had confronted a nightmare, a cryptid that defied all reason, and I had survived. But the memory of that night, of the desolate cliffs and the cliffside crawler, would forever haunt my dreams, a reminder that in the depths of the ocean, there are terrors that defy explanation, creatures that should never be awakened.